Hello and welcome to the third video in my Beginner's Guide to Python series. Today I'm going to be going over how the input function works in Python. The input function allows us to interact with our programs and make them more dynamic. So let's get into it. So the input function works by allowing users to input a piece of data. We can then store that data inside of a variable, which we learnt about in the first lesson. We can then use that variable in our program. The input function looks like this. It's just the word input, spelt wrong, with open and close brackets. So let's do a quick example. Let's say I do print, do a string, hello, what is your name? We can then use the input function. So we'll say name equals input. Again, spelt wrong, sorry about that. So if we save and run this, what is going to happen is it should say, what is your name? And then it's going to allow us to input something. But if we press enter now, nothing happens because we haven't actually done anything with the variable. So what can we do now? Well, if we write another print statement, we can then write a string, so hello. We can then use the plus sign, like I showed you in the last tutorial, to add this variable to the end of this statement. So it will say plus name. So what's going to happen now is it will print to the screen, hello, what is your name? Then the computer will wait for an input and then store that input as this name. Then, once the name has been declared, it will print this out. It will print hello plus whatever we input. So let's run it and see what happens. So, hello, what is your name? I'll put Joe. In the wrong bit. I'll put Joe. Hello, Joe. Really simple. Okay, so I'm going to give another example. I'm going to do a pretty simple calculator. So let's start off. We'll declare some variables, num1 and num2. So for num1, we're going to use the input function, and inside the brackets, we're going to write, what is your first number? Do the same for num2. What is your second number? Okay, so if we save and run this now, what's going to happen is it's going to say, what is your first number? We'll write 4. Second number we'll write 2. Also notice there's no space here. It's because I forgot to put one up here, so let's do that now. Okay, so now that we've got these numbers, we actually want to do something with them. So we'll declare another variable called sum, because it's the sum of number 1 and 2. We'll set that equal to num1 plus num2. And then we'll print this back out to the console. Although we want it to print to the console as num1 plus num2 equals the sum. So we'll do num1 plus quotes, and then in here we go put the plus sign. This is because in the string that gets output to the console, we want it to appear as, let's say num1 is 80. Do 80 plus num2. So let's add num2 onto the end. Plus num2, num2 plus, equal sign, plus sum. Okay, we'll run this and see what happens. What is your first number? We'll do 6. Second number, 9. So as you can see, it's naturally added them together. We should have got 15 here. It's just put the two numbers next to each other. So the reason that this has happened is because up here I've not actually defined what kind of data type that we're going to be taking in from the user. So it's just assumed that it's a string. And when you add two strings together, instead of adding up the numbers, it's just going to add the strings together. So we need to define that this is an integer by putting int like that, and then surrounding it in open and close brackets. We'll do the same for this one. Okay, now if we save this, and run that. What is your first number? What is your first number? 6, 8. Okay, so now it's throwing us an error. The reason this has happened is because we're trying to add integer values to a string, and you just can't do that. So what you need to do is, now that this is an integer, this is definitely an integer here, we need to then convert it back into a string so that it can be printed. So much like we did here, we'll put str in front of these variables here. Okay, so if we run this now, what is your first number? 1, second number 9. And there we go, it's working exactly as we expected it to. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video and want to see more, then make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. In the next one, I'm going to be going over conditions and if statements.